What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.
Hello, Avaya family. I am Brielle Starr, Online Education Coordinator for Avaya. Avaya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Dr. Elsbeth Moit, is with us today to talk about cultivating wholeness. Dr. Elsbeth has assisted thousands of women to create lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their lives and relationships. She is also the co-founder of Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago and the originator of June 1st National Intimacy Day. Welcome back to Avaya, Dr. Elsbeth.
Oh, thank you so much, Brielle. Can't wait to talk with you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us once again. And I always love speaking with you and learning from you. And I'm super excited for today's topic of cultivating wholeness. And I'd love if you could just get started by telling us what that means to you. What do you mean when you speak about cultivating wholeness?
Yes, I'd love to. So, in the context of the nervous system, which the theme of the overall summit is to heal the nervous system, and where I come from, how I look at it, it's really healing my nervous system has all to do with feeling whole. When I'm off, when I'm in balance, when my nervous system is irritated, when I'm either too intense or either sluggish, both in terms of energy, but also in my nervous energy, nervous system energy, then I don't feel whole. Here's the thing about wholeness. When I feel whole, I'm myself. I don't question myself. I don't have to prove anything. I feel really centered and grounded in my physical body. I feel connected emotionally, expressing my emotions, be that love, joy, or displeasure at times, perhaps expressing my anger, I mean, so that the other can hear it, it doesn't have to run out of the room, that I can really access my emotions in a healthy way, and that I'm connected with my mental well-being. Like when I'm not well mentally, so to speak, then I'm often in circular conversations. Elspeth, why did you do this? Or why did my partner do this? He never listens to me. If only, these are circular conversations that I don't design. I don't sit in the morning and think, okay, am I going to design the conversation about blaming myself or blaming another? No, they are automatic, they are impulsive, and they are usually repetitive. So that is the imbalance in our mind. Coming to balance where I can be aware of the thoughts that come and go, and then I can choose. What about choosing being in love with life? And what keeps me from that? Oh, perhaps something I have been withholding towards myself or another. So the wholeness has to do with tapping back into the integration of our physical, emotional, and mental being.
Yes, so beautifully said. Thank you for describing what this idea of cultivating wholeness means to you. And yeah, I really am excited to hear some more about this today. I love just the idea of feeling whole in general, and I'd imagine anyone listening desires to feel that way as well. And so then shifting gears a little bit more towards the nervous system specifically, how is this idea of wholeness related to healing our nervous systems?
Yes, great. So I hold that when we come into this world, that we are in a state of wholeness. We were in the womb. There was, Freddie calls it like having womb service. Freddie is my partner in life and business partner. So womb service where we just flow in the embryonic fluid, and then woof, we come out. And that's the moment when we get slapped on the butt and wake up in some sense, to this world. Not everything is pleasant. And we often think that we remember in the brain, like what we remember, what we consciously remember. However, every impact, every experience is remembered in the cell, on the cellular level, in the nervous system, because the nervous system is really our access to feeling sensations, feeling emotions, tasting, smelling. It all is associated with the nervous system. And so the experiences that we may have had that were not pleasant, perhaps they felt we are not safe, we cannot trust, we have to defend ourselves. And then we construe and make up decisions about this experience, how it felt, in order to live with the experience, because it often feels like this is going to kill me. Not like actually, but the experience is that I feel suffocated. I don't feel heard, you know. And so this is where it starts, that the nervous system gets altered. And it's part of life. It's not that we are fundamentally going to change this as far as the process is concerned. However, we don't have to live with the imprints, and most importantly, with what we made of these imprints. And that is where it comes in, the cultivation back into wholeness, into that state of peace, joy, bliss, pleasure, that we can often actually observe in children, young children, when they play, or like an infant, smiles, then cries, then is very satisfied looking at the mobile, above their eyes. And that is a state that we can re-enter. Now, the nervous system learns over time. So there was a moment, when I had an experience when my dad didn't come home as a child, and he came home every night, and that was our playtime. One night he doesn't come home. This is a deep shock. Don't know what to do with it. And what I make of it is like, oh, he doesn't love me anymore. Because if he did love me, he would be here with me. Now, in my young child brain and experience, that is how it shows up for me. There is not rationalizing in the sense of, something may have come up at work, or perhaps he was in an accident. This doesn't occur to a child because a child is totally egocentric. The whole world is about the child. That is the experience, So everything that occurs is in relationship to me and has something to do with me. So that may have then be a loss in trust. I cannot trust if my dad is not here and he didn't tell me that he wouldn't be here, All of that goes on more in the subconscious than, consciously thought through. However, it sticks to my awareness, to my experience, to my nervous system. And so that gets then further cultivated because based on that loss of distrust, I look into the world. So if someone does something for me, I better don't trust, or I'm at least a little bit suspicious, or just wait until the day this person won't fulfill any longer what they promised. And so we live with this undercurrent of either a diminishing in trust or a strong level of distrust, that can have different ranges, the trust. These are just examples. It could show up in other ways, like the experience with sexual abuse. And it was perhaps with a parent or someone who was in our environment who took care of us as child or adolescent. And there's, again, trust broken. Trust is so fundamental, and it can show up, or then the lack or loss of trust, through many different experiences. So why I mentioned trust has to do with that is connected to feeling a sense of wholeness. Because if I don't trust, it's not that I not only trust humans, I also don't trust life. I don't trust that there is a higher intelligence, consciousness that is me and that I come from, the source. So I don't feel I'm taken care of. And later on, that can show up like scarcity. There's never enough money, never enough love. Even if I may experience love, even if I may have a lot of of money, may still be the underlying experience of watch out, when is the next shoe gonna drop? And keeps the nervous system on alert all the time. Like I have to watch out. And it becomes so ingrained that we want to cultivate a way of being where that can being let go. Now, given that the nervous system learns over time, so the decisions we make as a 2-year-old or 5-year-old or 15-year-old, we have lived with them for a long, long time. No matter if we are 20 or 25, having lived with it for 5 years or 50 years, it is quite impactful. And so we want to learn new practices that allows the nervous system to alter. So now you probably want to know how to alter the nervous system.
Yes, I absolutely do want to know. Thank you for giving us some background about how our nervous system is being affected. And yeah, just hearing about how it can go back to these things all the way from our very, very, very early years. And we're still perhaps holding on to a lot of those stories or those things within our body. And so, yeah, with that being said, could you share how we can start altering that, where we begin our healing process?
Great. Yes. So one first step is to become aware. So if I hold a story of distrust, like the story with my dad who didn't come home, usually we don't make that connection. It's like I'm just not trusting, like I don't trust men, which was actually a real story in my life that I discovered through tapping into my nervous system in a whole new way. For me, it happens through the tantric learning, particular methodology that comes from East India, and to learn about energy frequency. And the nervous system experiences through frequency. Also, our thoughts are frequency. So if I keep living in the repetitive conversation unconsciously that I cannot trust because my dad didn't come, I'm not aware of that conversation. However, unless I tap into my subconscious and connect with that subconscious thought, I can, stand on my head. I can do a lot of things. I can even do meditation. But if that doesn't get shifted, that thought, I do the meditation on top of it. So it may make me feel a little better. It may, give me a little bit more peace of mind. but the underlying current is still there. So we want to work hand in hand with our mind, our subconscious mind, and then bringing it to consciousness, our emotions, because our subconscious as well our conscious mind is felt through emotion. You know, when I'm in love, there is a certain openness in my mind. You know, I don't distrust. I'm open to new experiences, and I feel this in my body. My heart may feel open. I may feel just really happy and alive in my entire body. And it has to do with our physical body in the sense of what sensations we feel. So there are three ways of accessing ourselves through the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental body. And in my work, I really work with all three dimensions because they are so interconnected like this, you know, so that we may access ourselves through the emotional self, because often when we tap into our emotions, when feel that that I cannot trust men, like what is that emotion? You know, my chest feels constricted, or I may have a knot in my stomach, or I just feel like an armor around my entire being. It could show up in different ways. I feel depressed. I feel hopeless. I feel cynical, you know. So these are the emotions and the sensations in my body. I can, oh, there's a knot in my stomach. Then I can go, whew, what is the feeling that is connected with it? And when did I feel this way? And often what shows up when people are being guided in this way, they can connect to an earlier time. They may have forgotten that memory in their mind, but when they connect with a feeling in their body and the emotion that they feel, that, yeah, I felt like this, yeah, when I was 5 years old. And the memory may come back, you know, so they can access it there, because then we can resolve what had us not trust at the source where it started. You know, from my adult self, then I can see, oh, I can see this little Elspeth that was so lost when her dad didn't come home. And now from my adult self, something may have happened to him. He surely didn't do it on purpose. And then I explore further. Wow, if my story of that I cannot trust ever again because my dad didn't come home and he really, just forgot about me, he doesn't love me anymore, I could create a new story that, wow, that was a made-up story. Now, at that time, very real. And so I start recreating a new story that really empowers me, like my father always loved me. And one day he didn't come home. Oh, what a relief. And the knot in the stomach is gone.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing such a personal example from your own life and helping us get a better understanding of that. And yeah, it's really interesting to hear about how, from this place of awareness, we can actually recognize the stories that we told ourselves in the past and also empower us to realize that we can change them and we can create new stories. And as our adult selves, we can figure out what story likely actually perhaps did happen or change, yes, some of those really disempowering stories that were likely not very true that we told ourselves in the past.
Yeah, let me add a further distinction. So for everyone who is listening, just that you can distinguish, discern between something that happened. Like what happened was that my dad didn't come home. That is what happened. And everything else is my story. And what we cannot change what happened. When I was sexually abused, when my dad, took action towards me that didn't feel right. The action I cannot change. The action, my father not coming home that evening, I cannot change. But I can change how I feel about it. And how I feel about something has to do with the story that I, have made up. It didn't feel like a story because it was a kind of a survival situation. I have to protect myself, so I better don't trust. It has its purpose, the story. But then it lives on for me and it prevents me in my life from bringing lasting intimacy and love in my life. That was an issue for me 25 years ago that I really suffered under and I didn't know how to change it. And I went through this process, that actually then took me to the place where I said, oh, I want to teach this to others. If this process can set me free, then wow, others may enjoy it too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. I always think it's wonderful to hear about someone who, yeah, experienced something such as yourself and then took that on and shared it with the world as well. So, thank you for being here with us today to share about it with share about it with us, Dr. Elsbeth. And just real quick, I know you talk a lot about intimacy and those sorts of things in your work. Could you just tell us a little bit about the triangle of the sex, heart, and consciousness and how that affects our well-being?
Yes. So many of us and the transformational approaches that many of us may have encountered from therapy to programs really speak often to the consciousness, like both the conscious mind, but also the subconscious, then to the emotional. So the mind and the emotional, I located here, the heart center, where we open, we have this magnet of feeling emotion both within and attracting. The dimension that is often not in depth explored into is our sexual primal self, because that is so primal, so pre-consciousness, like conscious consciousness, conscious awareness, that sexual energy brought us into this world. And it is our primal energy. There may be moments in life where we have the opportunity to connect with the primal energy where we totally let go, where there's no fear, there's no embarrassment, there's no shame. There is being in our fullest self. And it may be blissful, it may be highly pleasurable. Um, it may take we may be taken over by it. It's a very powerful energy. And we as a culture, as a world culture, we like to control it. But that energy that brought us into this world cannot be controlled. I mean, we can try, but controlling is not like, it is stronger than any control. However, what we can learn is to engage with it because it's the life-giving energy. So if I learn to engage with it, to draw on it, to listen to it, including my desires, instead of either shying away from my desires or in some way sublimate my desires in ways that may not be so beneficial to me, like substance abuse or drinking or sex, oversexing, or or being always in my head and don't dare to feel in my body, because it's just how I manage to survive or just live this life. So then the triangle is to come into wholeness between my primal sexual self, my emotional heart self, and my mental consciousness self. And all of that can be cultivated. Of course, I can only cultivate something when I bring awareness to it and step out of the awareness I had been in, because the awareness I have been in cannot produce anything new. It produces the same. So, awareness around my sexual self, awareness around my emotional self, and awareness around my mental and consciousness self. That then also goes into the cosmic, because that's the portal to it. However, I find that starting with bringing awareness to sex, heart, and mind, and cultivating our nervous system with very particular practices. They need to be designed towards altering the nervous system. Not all meditations, are of equal purpose creation there. And so, the meditation I'm going to give as a gift is designed to tap into greater awareness of self on different dimensions. And in the reconnecting with the different dimensions, I actually come into a state that I call a state of equanimity, a state of peace, a state of connection, from which my mind no longer runs us. I am in a peaceful state of mind where I can be focused yet relaxed, where I can be alert and letting go in my physical body. So that is a state of being that then invites the sense of wholeness.
So beautifully said. I loved hearing about that triangle and how it comes back around to this idea of wholeness and yeah, cultivating that wholeness. So thank you so much for diving in deeper there, Dr. Elspeth. And I would love if we can talk about how people can dive deeper with the beautiful work that you do. I know you have that free integration meditation for our listeners and viewers today. And we have a button leading over to that down below if there's anything else you'd like to tell us about what that meditation is.
Yes, yes. This is how we, through particular meditation, is how we can shift our nervous system. And I invite everyone to consider to take that on as a daily practice. As I said earlier, the nervous system shifts over time. Over time, I shift my consciousness, my emotional state, and my physical and yet primal state. And that meditation leads you into it. If you're familiar with the chakra centers, it actually taps into each energy center in a way so that each center can expand and open. So there's a principle to the practice. Mostly when we think of focusing, when we focus our mind, we automatically think of converging focus, like I focus on something, on a point, you know. In this practice I'm sharing, Cultivating Wholeness, is where we practice diverging focus, like where we focus on space. And that allows the brain waves to drop from beta brainwave into alpha brainwave and lower. And when we're in the lower brain waves, we become still in our mind, which has this stilling effect on the nervous system, you know. And in that state, I can be present. I also can be present to information, which is frequency, that is already here in space. But if I'm like this, it's difficult to be open to new information. And not that I look for information, I become the portal to receive information. And when I'm in this open space, like each of the energy centers opens, and you're just being guided into it. You don't have to figure it out. My heart center opens, my third eye. And in that openness, a new state of feeling and experiencing and receiving arises. I recommend to do this practice for a month every day and see what happens. I promise you some alteration towards what your intention is in terms of healing, in terms of cultivating peace, in terms of perhaps feeling joy or feeling in love with your life. I promise that you will move towards it, if not have a whole, epiphany, uh, practicing it.
Yeah, so beautifully said. Thank you for creating and offering that amazing resource for people to explore. And as a reminder to everyone watching or listening, you can click the button below to head over to Dr. Elsbeth's website and check that out. And then, are there any final insights or a final message that you would like to leave us with today, Dr. Elsbeth?
It's really just everyone bring your awareness to your heart center. If you wish to place your hand on your chest and just breathe into your precious heart. And then out of this conversation, what I suggest is that you may want to really articulate an intention for yourself for what you want to feel, how you want to feel out of your healing of the nervous system, out of the conversation, out of the meditation that I'm sharing with you, and out of the summit. You know, this is a portal that we all are in right now in the summit. What is it for you? If you could free yourself of blank, what is it for you? How would you feel? And then set out this feeling as your intention. I want to feel freedom. I want to feel like, a spring in my step. I want to feel mobility in my joints, whatever it may be. Set it out. Place your hands on your heart. Breathe into your heart center and feel the way you want to feel right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elsbeth, for joining us today and sharing your wisdom about cultivating wholeness.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Yes, and I also want to thank our Avaya students for tuning in and joining us today, showing up for yourself, and we will see you all again real soon. Take care, everyone.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.